The Atari Network is a fan channel and is not affiliated with Atari. The Atari logo and name is copyrights of their respective owners.
In a lot of ways, the Atari 5200 makes more sense than any console I've purchased games for recently. It seems that good games cost more, the bad games are really cheap, and there's only a small few that break the rule. But on top of that, the crazy price inflation doesn't seem to be affecting the console like it did the Atari 7800 or the Atari Jaguar. Thank God there's still a console out there with a game library that is affordable. Maybe it's because I'm buying cartridge-only games instead of complete in box, but the 5200 has some really fun stuff for very little money. I did spend about $60 on a cart-only copy of Gremlins, and I spent $40 on a copy of H.E.R.O, but every other game I purchased combined has cost me less than those, and that's 10 other games. So I thought it would be fun and helpful to make a video pointing out some of the affordable games you can acquire today and have a blast playing them on your Atari 5200. If you can afford copies of Gremlins, H.E.R.O, Megamania, and Rescue on Fractalus, then by all means, grab those. Like I said earlier, they cost a bit more, but those are some of the best games I played to this point. But here are some games you can find in eBay lots and buy themselves for a small fraction of what those other games sell for, and I promise you'll have just as much fun, if not a little bit more. Moon Patrol is one of the first games I acquired after getting my 5200, and it turned out to be a great acquisition. For those that don't know, you play a moon buggy that constantly moves to the right, but you can control the speed by pressing forward or back on the joystick. Your buggy can shoot up and forward by pressing the fire button, and you'll have to contend with obstacles like rocks, jagged rocks, pits, and holes, along with buggy-munching plants, and contending with enemy vehicles like a variety of spaceships that can fire on you, and a few that can even make new pits if they miss. There are also tanks that shoot as soon as you appear on the screen, jet planes that come up from the rear and taunt you, and many more. The progression is fantastic, and even after getting a game over, you can continue from the last completed stage by simply pressing the 2 button. This game straddles the line of being difficult to master, but extremely forgiving, and because of that forgiveness, you're guaranteed to continue progressing to new and exciting levels each time you play. The graphics are nice and colorful, and the control is excellent, even with the notorious 5200 joystick. I recommend it to all Atari 5200 owners. Vanguard is similar to Moon Patrol, but rather than driving a moon buggy, you're tearing through in a spaceship. Your ship can shoot in 4 directions: in front of you, behind you, above, and below you. But you have to move in the direction you want to shoot, otherwise it defaults to in front of you, and the threats come from every which direction. This game can become quite intense, but it never reaches a point where it's unfair in my opinion. Each challenge is very doable, and when I lose, I feel like it's my fault and not the fault of the game. The different areas and stages add an incredible variety to the gameplay, and even after defeating the boss and starting over, they change up the cavern layouts completely. This is a brilliant game in my opinion, and one you're going to want on the Supersystem. I've always loved kicks, no matter what platform I play it on. It's such a simple idea, as you must use your little spark to create boxes and shapes in the playfield from the corners to fill in as much of the screen as you can. But it's much harder than it sounds, because you have enemy sparks moving along the edges with you, and a large randomly moving enemy in the center of the playfield that kills you should you venture too far from the safety of the edges. And eventually, they double up on that enemy for some real challenge. It's honestly not much to look at, or really listen to, but the gameplay is king here, and it's very addictive. If you have a good working control method, then I think most people get hours of enjoyment trying to beat their scores and get just a little bit further. And it's so common, you'll get it for cheaper than just about anything else on the console. I think Defender is one of those games that new generations of gamers have labeled old and archaic. Other games that seem to have been given a similar label would be Asteroids, Space Invaders, Centipede, and even Pac-Man. But despite its age, and much like those other games, if you underestimate Defender, then it's going to punish you. A lot. But this version is so much fun and so well done that it's a punishment I'll take any day of the week. The graphics are simplistic, but they really don't need to be anything more than what they are, as you fly around the skies above mountains and valleys, attempting to eliminate various alien threats who are abducting and killing the population. This game moves much faster than most people would expect if they hadn't played it before, but the control manages to feel very responsive and crisp, no matter what speed the game is running. Be careful though, because you can accidentally kill the people you're trying to save if you're fired too close to the ground, and I always loved that aspect. This version of Defender is brilliantly done, and just as addictive as ever, even 40 plus years after its release. Yes, you can play Pac-Man on just about any console ever, but I wanted to mention this version because, well, number one, there are a ton of them out there, so you're going to end up with it. And number two, it was a massive improvement over the 2600 version. Back in the day, this would have been the definitive version of Pac-Man, and anybody suffering from the fever would choose this one over the wimpy 2600 version. But even today, this version of Pac-Man plays great. You should be able to enjoy it even if your controllers are in need of repair. As long as the joystick works and the start button works, you're golden and ready to play. Hey, just because a game can be found in any given eBay lot doesn't mean it's not worth owning and enjoying. I argue that it's a must-play on the console, so make sure you try to find a game lot on eBay with this one in it and a few others I mentioned. You'll have hours of fun on the Supersystem with this one. So that's it, guys. 5 games I recommend for the Atari 5200 Supersystem that won't break the bank. I myself recently got the console, and I've managed to obtain quite a few games at reasonable prices. But these 5 have been played the most by me out of the rest. I really like Jungle Hunt on the 5200, but I find that one has a bit more of a learning curve and requires some commitment to get started and have fun with. A lot of people really seem to like Kangaroo on the 5200, but that's a game I just can't get into no matter how hard I try. But I'll keep trying for you guys. The only 5200 game that I would say I don't like since acquiring the system is Galaxian. That port was extremely disappointing to me, and I would recommend avoiding that and maybe Super Breakout. And I only say Super Breakout because it doesn't feel right without the paddles to me. Do you agree with my recommendations? Would you recommend any other games for people just getting into the Atari 5200 Supersystem? Leave them down in the comments below. And with all that said, I want to thank you so much for watching the video. This is the 7800 Pro System Gamer on behalf of the Atari Network saying, keep it classy, Atarians. Later.